It dawned on me the other day. I had promised doing like weekly NFL Q&A videos, and yet here I am, hadn't done a whole damn one the whole season. I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you. I'll make sure we get one like every week, and maybe we'll get more throughout the course of the rest of the season. How about that? Unbelievable. Bush League for the Schleg Daddy. Bush League. And a channel full of Bush League. All right, so thanks for tweeting your questions. Let's go ahead and get started. What the hell is going on here? There, that kind of spreads it out a little bit. It wasn't a comb forward, so fuck you. Sports Talk kicks us off by asking your prediction to the Bears' regular season record this year. I believe before the season, I did team-by-team season previews for each team, including the Bears, and you can check that out on this channel, and it has my prediction for them. I did predict they would win the division, and even after today's loss to Miami, I still stand behind that. Joe Jones asks, do Dak Prescott's struggles and wide receivers calling him out prove that Dez Bryant can still play? I don't really know that one begets the other here. Dak's struggles can be attributed to Dak not progressing, the coaching staff not doing a good job putting him in positions to progress and succeed, the wide receivers around him being borderline pathetic. That seems what it's more about. As far as whether Dez can still play or not, I don't think there was anything about Dez being able to play at all. It's that Dez is not a $16 million a year guy. He's not a number one wide receiver anymore. So it's kind of a false equivalency here a little bit, Joe. The Hype asks, is it time to move on from Bill O'Brien even if the Houston Texans make the playoffs this year? Probably been time to move on from him. Let's just say you really get nuts here with the Texans. What do you think their record's ultimately going to be? What, like 9-7 again? You get to the playoffs and you lose in the first round? Man, at some point in time, there has to be some level of progression there. And there just really isn't. To me, in order for Bill O'Brien to keep his job in Houston, they need to not only make the playoffs, but at least win a playoff game. You do that, you could say that's progress, especially if you see some development in Deshaun Watson, and there's maybe a reason to keep him around for 2019. If anything less than that happens, then he does need to be shown the door. I would agree with that. It would be time for a change. Cloud asks, do you think the Eagles will acquire Le'Veon Bell and sign him? I just don't think Le'Veon Bell makes a ton of sense for the Eagles. I know you could say from a pure player standpoint, he would be by far the best running back that they have, and he would add multiple dimensions to their offense, and that is true. But he would require draft pick currency and cap space that the Eagles, A, probably don't want to part with for a potential rental, and B, in terms of the cap space, they don't really have. I'm just not really seeing where this makes a whole lot of sense, frankly. I just don't. To me, a team like the Jets or the Colts, who have the cap space to take him on and then also sign him long-term with young quarterbacks that need to be protected, would make more sense to me than the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles won the championship last year without a marquee notable back. So I don't know that they look at him and feel like he has to be there in order for them to win again. Slim Gator, does Dan Quinn get a pass for the Falcons with all their injuries? In my book right now, yes. I mean, just watched today. They beat the Buccaneers, so they're 2-4 now. They've had notable injuries to notable players. And the season's still got plenty of time left. Who knows what the Falcons can do? I'm not going to totally count Dan Quinn out. So, yeah, he gets a pass. He absolutely gets somewhat of a pass from me. I mean, I'm just saying. It's not, what are we talking about, firing Dan Quinn? Yeah, it seems really, really harsh. BJ, who is your QB1 and QB2 for the upcoming NFL draft? Don't have ones yet. By the end of the month, I'll probably start to think of who I could envision being my quarterback 1 and quarterback 2, but as of this moment, I don't have one. So stay tuned for that. D_no. If you could pick one player from another roster for your Bears, who would it be? One player from another roster, who would it be? Patrick Mahomes, because he's better than Trubisky. He's young, he's a quarterback, stronger arm, better arm talent. I'd take Patrick Mahomes. Now, if you're saying I can't replace Trubisky with anybody else, and I could take another player from around the league somewhere, if I could take another player from somebody else around the league, who would it be? Probably Travis Kelce from the Chiefs would be one, because this is a tight end that is familiar with the scheme and the system that Nagy is running in Chicago. You're talking about Kelce, who's one of the best tight ends in the league, just entering really the peak of his career. So looking at the here and now, somebody like a Kelce might make a world of sense. Now, in an ideal world, I would say Aaron fucking Donald, and that's the end of it, but I'm trying to be somewhat realistic. But if we're not being realistic, then I would say Aaron fucking Donald. Because imagine a defense that had Aaron Donald, think about this, Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, and Akeem Hicks rushing the passer. Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. Good luck to quarterbacks around the league on that one. Mike Schmidt. Can Carson Wentz still win the MVP even though he missed the first 2 games of the season? He could if his numbers were great and you could point to the impact he had on his team. Just because a guy missed 2 games doesn't automatically eliminate him from the MVP conversation. In some ways, depending upon who it is and so on and so forth, you could say it enhances it. Like, it really enhances it. Like I think about Emmitt Smith, what was that 93 season? I'm trying to remember, did he win the MVP that year? I know this much. I can't remember if he did or not. I'm sorry, I'm getting old, so sometimes I lose sight of some of these things. But I remember he held out the first 2 games of the season because Jerry Jones didn't want to pay him, and the Cowboys lost their first 2 games of the year. And then if I remember correctly, he came back and they didn't lose the rest of the year. Clearly, that was the MVP of the league, no matter what. Julian, you think the Raiders end up with Nick Bosa? Man, even if they were in the position to draft a potential stud like that, they'd find a way to fuck it up. You have any faith in John Gruden and his decision-making and his player personnel decisions? Are you serious? I'm sure they'll be in position to get a big-time defensive guy like a Bosa or somebody else, but yeah, good luck with that one. Growth E, what week will Eli get benched? It's got to be sometime this year, but they're going to stick with them as long as they can because they're going to try to not have egg on their face. You already do, Dave Gettleman. Oopsie daisies. Piznick64. Do you think Tua is a first-round quarterback in 2020? I don't know if I buy it or believe it just yet. Nor have I really been paying enough attention to him to really watch him and really start to evaluate that. And he's another year away at least, so I won't focus on him just yet. Just Pros win. Will Khalil Mack be the Defensive Player of the Year? It most certainly feels that way right now, current state, because you can really quantify his impact and the difference he made on that Bears defense. So, to me, he's the favorite right now. Sure, things can happen, and there's a long way to go in the season, but right now, yes, he would be the Defensive Player of the Year. Frederick Lohaus asked, would Eli Manning be better if they didn't fire Tom Coughlin? No. Tom Coughlin being there or not has nothing to do with Eli Manning being washed. Eli Manning is now a bum. He is washed up. It is over. It is done. The dude fucking sucks. He does. He's just done. Coughlin being there wouldn't have anything to do with that one way or another. And frankly, when you think about Coughlin, his time was up there too. And when you want to spend all this time praising Coughlin, because yes, ultimately they did win 2 Lombardi trophies, and it's going to ultimately get him into the Hall of Fame as a head coach someday. When you think about it, Coughlin was there a long time, and Eli didn't have a ton of seasons that his team made the playoffs. And they only had 2 seasons there where they actually won a playoff game. It happened to be the 2 years that they went to the Super Bowl and won the championship. So Coughlin, you could argue, underachieved with that team. There, I said it. Coughlin, yes, you got the 2 seasons where you got the rings, but the rest of the time he was overrated as bricks, and his time had long since come to be shown the door in New York. The Den Sidran asked, is Big Ben an underrated or overrated quarterback? Ability to circumvent consent? Underrated. Sometimes overrated. You know what, with Big Ben, it's funny. Is he viewed as an elite quarterback, and I do agree with that. But I do feel like there is even a significant step down from Brady, Rodgers, Breeze to Big Ben. I think it's fair with Big Ben sometimes you can look at him both being underrated and overrated. Because you look at the system that he's in, specifically the talent that he has around him, and you could say a lot of other quarterbacks would have really gaudy numbers and win a lot of games with that too, and that's probably a fair point to make. It's not saying that Ben doesn't help them or make them better, but he's got a lot of weapons around him, and he can utilize them very nicely. So it's probably both, honestly. Lorenz Grani, what would the Browns' record be if they had a good coach? Well, they got steamrolled today by the Chargers. Before that, they were 2-2-1 heading into Week 6. I would say minimum 4-1. Minimum. Absolute minimum 4-1. Maybe 5-0. Yeah. The decision to start Tyrod Taylor cost that team. You might be looking at a 5-0 squad. You might be 4-1 maybe. So it made a difference, and it cost them. Alex Saida, are the Bears not utilizing Jordan Howard like they should? I agree with that to a certain degree, although I might be more concerned about wanting to have Jordan Howard be more readily available come November, December, January, when the weather starts to get colder and the running game becomes a little bit more important. I'd rather burn through his carries there in the second half of the season and backload him there as opposed to the first half of the season. That said, in terms of pure structure of the offense, the Bears aren't doing a particularly great job of running the football with him. They're not quite as good running the football with him. A lot of it is scheme and gimmicks and so forth, and they're just not beating people up front and executing and making good blocks in the running game. So, yeah, they're not utilizing him like they should, but if it means that they can utilize him more later on in the year when they're really going to need to, then I'm okay with that right now. Native Clown 03. Who wins a Super Bowl first, Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold? Great question. My default here is this. Who's got the better general manager? As of the moment, it is the Browns with John Dorsey. When I look at the actual core roster of talent around both of these young quarterbacks, who has the better core of pure talent, around them, it's Baker Mayfield. So I have to say the odds would point more to Baker being able to win a Super Bowl first as opposed to Sam Darnold, the way it sits right now, current state. Lucas Feuerstein, do you think the Chargers will make the playoffs? I do. Might not be a division chance, but I do think they'll get one of the 2 wildcard spots in the AFC. Halloween, where are you at? What's your favorite video game of all time? Favorite video game of all time? NFL 2K5, obviously. Super Mario Brothers 3. I think that's another obvious one. Like pure favorite games of all time. I saw a lot of people when I talked about NFL 2K5 was my favorite football game of all time. They pointed to Madden 06 as another one, and I would agree with that one too. What else? I'm gonna go completely off the radar here. I don't know if you were just asking specifically for sports or not. We're talking about like bare bones basic. Still, Frogger is one of my favorite fucking games of all time. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is another one of those all-time classics. And then the better quarterback, Drew Brees or Peyton Manning? No matter how I answer this, I will get a lot of shit. So I'm going to do what I want and do what I want to say. Drew Brees. About that. Both are great. First ballot Hall of Famers. All time at their position. I think Drew Brees is better. Boom. I said it. Yeah. What? Yeah. Exactly.